Level 1, the dreamer. You are 22 years old, 8 months into a software engineering job that pays $68,000 a year, and the idea arrives at 11 at night in a diner booth that smells like burnt coffee. You grab a napkin because your phone is at 4% and sketch the whole thing in a shaky ballpoint circle, an app, a market, a name you will change 6 times before launch. Your hands are cold from the air conditioning even though it's July, and you notice that the small, dumb detail your brain files away instead of the idea itself. Your mother, when you tell her over the phone that night, asks the only question that matters to her, whether you'll still have health insurance, and you lie and say you'll figure it out. 2 weeks later, you hand in your notice with $4,300 in savings, and the runway, you think, walking out of that office for the last time, is the only thing that matters now. Not the destination, just how far the fuel takes you before you have to land. Level 2, the builder. For the next 9 months, you write code in a 1-bedroom apartment with the blinds closed so you can see the monitor, burning through code at a pace that costs you 11 pounds you didn't have to lose. You track your burn rate daily in a spreadsheet, $4,300 becoming $2,100 becoming $600, and somewhere around month 6 the number stops being math and starts being a countdown you can feel behind your sternum. Everyone has a mechanism, some lever that makes them keep going when the logical move is to stop, and yours turns out to be spite, aimed mostly at a manager who once told you that you weren't ready for the senior track. A friend from college messages to ask if you want to come to his wedding in Denver, and you say yes and then quietly no, typing it that you won't go because leaving the apartment for 4 days currently feels like leaving a patient on a table mid-surgery. You launch a broken beta to 40 people you begged from a college group chat, and 11 of them actually open the app twice, a number so small it's almost funny, except it's the first real evidence that a stranger will use the thing you built. Level 3, the seed. You meet Dana at a mutual friend's birthday in month 11, and you tell her about the app for 40 minutes before you think to ask her a single question about herself, a fact she brings up for years afterward, fondly at first. You raise your first money that same month, $25,000 from an angel investor for 8%, a simple agreement for future equity with no valuation cap you don't fully understand until your lawyer explains it flatly, like weather. Your hand won't stop shaking as you sign it, not from fear exactly, more like your body doesn't know yet whether to celebrate or brace. The 4-year vesting schedule with a 1-year cliff means none of this is legally yours until you survive 12 full months, a detail you hear and immediately forget, because you're still staring at the number on the wire transfer the first time anyone has ever paid you to believe something you drew on a napkin. Level 4, the Accelerator. You get into Y Combinator on your 3rd application, and for 13 weeks you sleep in shifts, 4 hours, then work, then 4 hours again, in a house with 5 other founders until your sense of what day it is becomes genuinely unreliable. Your jaw aches most mornings from clenching it in your sleep, a fact you only learn because another founder mentions hearing you grind your teeth through the shared wall. You hire your first 2 engineers on the strength of a term sheet that hasn't closed yet, splitting the equity pool until your own ownership drops from 100% to 62, a number you watch shrink on the cap table with something close to grief for a thing you never really owned outright anyway. On demo day, you pitch in front of 400 investors for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, timed to the second by a countdown clock on the wall, and you close a $500,000 seed round 11 days later at a $4 million valuation. Level 5, the near death. You're 20 months in when the number in the bank account reads 6 weeks of runway, and payroll is due in 9 days. A gap that used to feel abstract and now feels like a countdown clock bolted directly to your ribs. You call every investor from the seed round, and most don't pick up, which teaches you something quieter and more permanent than any pitch deck ever did about the difference between people who believe in you and people who believed in the number. You sit at your kitchen table at 2 in the morning with a list of 3 employees and what you'd have to tell each of them, and your throat goes tight and dry in a way no amount of water fixes. Dana finds you there at 3, doesn't say anything, just sits down across from you with 2 mugs of tea neither of you drinks. One investor finally agrees to a bridge note, a stopgap loan that converts to equity later at a 20% discount, and you thank him in a voice that comes out steadier than you feel because panic you're learning sounds almost exactly like calm if you clench the right muscles. You don't tell the team how close it was. You just start hiring again 3 weeks later and let them assume that was always the plan. Level 6, The pivot. The product you nearly died for isn't the product that sells, a fact that arrives not as one dramatic realization, but as 11 separate small ones, a support ticket here, a churn number there, until the pattern is undeniable and mildly humiliating. You kill the feature that took 14 months to build in a single afternoon meeting that lasts 19 minutes. And it is, all things considered, a remarkably calm 19 minutes for something that expensive. 2 engineers quit that week, unwilling to rebuild something they'd just finished rebuilding, and you don't blame them even slightly. You married Dana in a courthouse ceremony that costs $60 in fees, because neither of you can justify spending more while the company has 4 months of runway left. And you remember mostly the specific weight of the ring on your finger. Unfamiliar, heavier than you expected metal to be. You are 27 now, and the version of the company that gets funded 3 months from this point bears almost no resemblance to the one on the original napkin, which is either a tragedy or the entire point, depending on which day you ask you. Level 7, the raise. For the next 4 years, the company grows the way compound interest grows, invisible at first and then suddenly obvious, closing a Series A at $8 million, and a Series B 2 years later at $42 million. Numbers you say out loud once in an elevator to Mark, your co-founder, and then never quite believe again. Your daughter is born the same week you're finalizing the Series B term sheet, and you spend her first night in the world reading a liquidation preference clause on your phone in a hospital chair. A detail you will not tell her for years and will regret telling her the one time you do. Revenue crosses $1 million in annual recurring revenue on a Tuesday. Nobody marks on any calendar, because by the time you notice a milestone, you're already 3 weeks past the next one. You take on a board for the first time, 3 new voices with veto power over decisions that used to be entirely yours to make badly, and you sign a personal guarantee on the office lease without reading it closely enough, a detail that will matter later in a way you can't currently imagine. The specific ache in your lower back from 11-hour days at a desk becomes a fact of your body you stop mentioning to anyone, including Dana, who has started leaving notes on the counter instead of waiting up to say things out loud. Level 8, the board. Mark disagrees with the board about the next hire, the next market, the next everything. And the disagreement isn't loud, it's worse than loud. It's calm and procedural and handled entirely in emails CCing a lawyer. You watch him clear out his desk on a Thursday afternoon in April, 6 years and 1 month after the two of you signed that first term sheet together with shaking hands. And he leaves his employee badge face down on the desk instead of handing it to anyone. A small, deliberate refusal to make the moment easier for the room. He keeps 4% of a business you built together and no longer speak inside. That night, you stand in the kitchen of the empty office at 9 o'clock, staring at the coffee machine he used to complain was too slow. Your chest tight in a way that has nothing to do with the coffee, and you realize you're the only one left who remembers it being installed. Level 9, the exit. 8 years and 5 months after the diner booth, a public company offers to acquire yours for $210 million. A number that, after the liquidation preference stack, the secondary sale terms, and a tax bill, nobody warns you about clearly enough, nets you something far smaller than the headline, but still more money than your entire extended family has made across 3 generations combined. You sign the papers in a conference room with a view of an actual airport runway, asphalt, planes, and you notice the word again. The same one from the diner booth 8 years earlier. Except now it means something closer to freedom than fuel. Dana isn't there for the signing. She moved out 4 months earlier, not dramatically, just a moving truck on a Tuesday while you were in a board meeting, and the divorce finalizes the same month the acquisition does. A coincidence of paperwork you'll spend years wishing had felt like more than a coincidence. You call your mother before you call anyone from the company, and she asks if this means you can finally take a vacation, and you laugh in a way that surprises you, hollow and real at the same time. That night you drive past the diner where the napkin started, on purpose, slower than the speed limit allows, and it's still open, still smells the same from the parking lot, and you don't go in. Level 10, the mentor. You're 58 now, advising a 23-year-old at a coffee shop, a young founder who showed up with an idea sketched on the back of a receipt because her phone, like yours once was, had died at the worst possible moment. Your daughter is 31, married with a son of her own who calls you granddad, and runs to you at the door in a way that unlocks something in your chest you didn't know was still available. You don't tell the young founder the odds because the odds have never once talked anyone out of anything worth doing. You tell her about runway instead, the real kind and the other kind, and you watch her nod like she's heard the word before and doesn't yet know she hasn't. Not really. Not the way you learned it at 2 in the morning with 9 days left on the clock. You still get a birthday text from Mark every year. 4 words, nothing more, and you've never once considered that anything less than exactly enough. Before she leaves, you take the original napkin, the one you've kept framed on the wall behind your desk for 36 years, and you hand it to her still in its frame. The ink faded but legible, and you tell her to bring it back once she doesn't need it anymore. You both know she might not. That's fine. That was always the deal.